Good morning and welcome to Papa's Farm. This morning we're going to be talking about the item that has caused more questions than anything else since I started just posting on Facebook videos and photos from the garden, my hobby. And that is the raised beds. A lot of questions about the raised beds. So today I hope to answer a few of them. If there are some that I did not answer, please feel free to leave your comments below. And I would really like to know what you thought about everything anyway. So having said that, let's take a look at these raised beds. So the raised beds that I use for my gardens come in a multitude of different sizes. We're going to talk about the widths first, or the lengths actually. All of them are 30 inches wide, approximately. It's 30 and change. And then the first size is 30 inches long, hence it's a circle. As you see, they all have radius corners. I use mine for my herb garden. Then the next size are the 5-foot beds. So it's roughly 30 by 60 inches. And then after that, we get into the 8-foot beds. That one's a little too close to see all of it. I have another one right over here behind me. It's probably even closer. And then after the 8-foot beds, they also have a 10-foot bed. And then after the 10-foot bed, there is the 13-foot bed. Now these beds come in two different heights, which is approximately 17 inches and 33 inches. And that is very important to know because this is where you can save money. So before I get into that, I found them on vidaxl.com. That's vidaxl.com. And I'll have a link to the page that actually has the beds themselves on it. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the basic construction method. These things are really simple. There's like 5 components that make up every one of the beds that's in here. So if you look very closely, you can see the screw heads in the side. Zoom in on them a little bit there. There you go. And you can see the seam just off to the right of it there. Okay. Oops. So you have your quarter round panels that make up the ends. 2 of those make up the ends. And so if it's 30 inches wide, approximately, stands to reason that those are 15 by 15, 15-inch radius or a 30-inch diameter. And then you have approximately 30-inch side panels. So you can see there the screw heads on either end of that panel. Okay? And they're probably a little bit longer than that because all these panels have to overlap. And they're not exactly 30 inches, 5 feet, 10 feet, 8 feet, and 13 feet. I just round that off for ease of conversation. But bottom line is that's the gist of it. So it's real easy to see how they come up with their sizes. Okay, so you take one 30-inch panel and you put 2 15-inch panels on the ends to get your radius, and now you're at 60 inches or 5 feet. Okay, you add another 30-inch panel. You know, it says, once again, you're probably over 5 feet, you're probably 5'5", 5'6". You put another 30-inch panel, you're at roughly 8 feet, that kind of a thing. So it's pretty simple. Now, the other components that you don't see, in fact, I'm going to zoom in on this row of screws. You'll notice that the end row of screws, the first ones I showed you, all just have screw heads. But if you go to the next one, there's a couple of screws that actually have the screw coming out the side instead of the screw head. Okay. And let's take a look at why that is so. So let's zoom in over here. See that little upright piece coming up there? That's because every time there's behind the leaf, sorry, every time there is a seam in straight pieces, you have one of these upright pieces coming up. So it's back out here. There you can see the top of one. Well, in between those two upright pieces that you bolt to the side, obviously this thing just bolts together. So I'll move this here. See that piece of metal there? Okay, that's a cross piece. And that keeps those seams of straight panel to straight panel from buckling in or out. It's further reinforced, and you may not probably won't be able to see it, by a piece of wire that'll start at the top on this side, go down to the bottom at the other, and same thing, it'll start at the top at that side and come down to the bottom of this side. And they're tightened up with turnbuckles. And I tell you all that because there's a reason. And that is, keep in mind how these are assembled, okay? Once again, they're roughly 33 inches tall. So I think it comes up to roughly 17 and a half and 32 point something or 33. The reason why the heights aren't exactly half of one being half of the other is because once again they use the exact same components. So if you were to order this 13-foot bed and the taller height instead of the 17-inch height, what you would get are these exact same components, just twice as many of them, with the exception of the pieces that go across in the center to stiffen up the sides. And what they do is the top of the second, they just basically stack it. And the reason why it's less than half is because on the second row, this screw down here, which you can't see, would overlap this one here. So you're basically bolting the second row on to the top row of holes in the first row, hence making it twice as tall. The reason why I bring that up is because of price. And I didn't realize when I started buying these, but I wish that I had. The reason why it's important to know that is because for the taller units, there's less packaging, there's less processing, there's a few less bolts. That's not going to make a difference. It just ends up being less. It's cheaper for them to sell the tall ones. And once you see all the corrugated they use to get it over here, you know, you'll understand a little bit better. Still, I was amazed. So I wrote down some prices that I looked up just a few weeks ago, so these are relatively recent. And by the way, before I get into that, I want to let you know the reason why I chose this company is not because of the quality. These are not the highest quality metal raised beds. In fact, this is the most economical raised bed per cubic foot that I could find. And I am a bit of a nerd, so what I did was I went through and I found all kinds of raised metal beds, everything from ones that are already put together, basically feeding troughs, to flat panels that made square ones and rectangular ones, to pre-built kits, to the whole 9 yards. And I calculated my cost per cubic foot, because in my opinion that was the best way to really compare apples to apples. This one was the least expensive per cubic foot. Having said that, they do the job. I'm perfectly happy with them, but a few things that you'll need to know, and that is the panels don't always line up on the top edge. I mean, they could be off, I've seen as much as 1/4, 3/8 of an inch. But if you watch my garden tours, you don't notice, and to be honest with you, I don't even notice. Now what it does do is it leaves a little sharp corner here and there. I've never cut myself on them. If you were that concerned about them, you could take a file and just file the corner and do a round corner so that it wouldn't be a hazard at all. I mean, I've gotten some with some dents and dings in it. Once again, it's a garden raised bed, and I've really not noticed, but it saved a lot of money. But having said that, let's talk a little bit about pricing. Okay, so obviously, the bigger the garden or the bigger the bed, the more money that you're going to save per linear foot, which is going to then equate into a greater savings per cubic foot. And so what do I mean? So a 5-foot bed for 17-inch height is $149. I agree, a little ridiculous. That's $63. No, excuse me, that's wrong. That comes out to a little bit less than $30 a linear foot. Okay. However, if you go to an 8-foot, you get an 8-footer for $161. You get 3 more feet for nothing, like $12 more, something like that. It's ridiculous. And it just goes on like that. However, though, where your real savings is if you order, it's 31 inches, excuse me. So they're 17-inch tall and 31-inch tall. Once again, the difference because of the overlap. That's why they're not 17 and 34. So on a 5-footer example, and this is probably one of the biggest examples in my opinion, the 17-inch tall 5-foot raised bed is $149. A 31-inch tall 5-foot raised bed is $172. So you can literally take the parts from that and make 2 17-inch tall raised beds. You just don't put the second row on top of the top row. Now what that will mean is you'll have to go to the big box store, Lowe's, Home Depot, or your local hardware store and find 6 nuts, 6 bolts, and 6 washers that fit. It's not a big deal. It's pretty easy. You're going to spend less than probably $5, 10 at the most. And instead of paying $149 per raised bed, you're only paying $86 per raised bed. Way cheaper. Another one, 8-footer. If you were to do a 17-inch high 8-footer, it's $161 per bed. Once again, not bad compared to the 5-foot when you do a linear foot cost. However, if you do a 31-inch 8-footer, it's $258 or only $128 per bed. You get all the way down to the 13 by 31, okay? So 13 feet, and actually I think it's a little bit more, by 31 inches, and it's $387. Once again, awful lot of money, roughly $193.50. $193.50. But for 13 feet, okay? So if you're looking at your 5-foot beds, if you were to get those in 31 inches tall, $86 a bed if you only make them so they're 17 inches tall. Take 3 of those to get 15 foot long, and you're looking at $254. Whereas for $194, you get 13 feet. You're only 2 feet short, and you're $60 less. So if you have the money, if you had $400 to spend, you could have 2 beds that are 13 feet long and 17 inches tall. Now it does get a little tricky when you get over 5 feet, because when you get over 5 feet, now you have panels, straight panels that hit straight panels. And if you remember, I showed you that mechanism that goes in the middle to keep it from spreading apart or coming together. So what happens is on the 31-inch beds, that's the only piece that's different. That piece of metal that I showed you that bolts to the side, the reason why the screws come out, is tall enough to span that 31 inches. And then you have 2 cross pieces, one that goes across on the top and one goes across on the bottom, and then you get like this cable. It's kind of an aircraft cable or a braided wire that runs in an X that tightens with turnbuckles. Or actually it may not even do that. I think it just, no it does, it tightens with a turnbuckle or something of that nature, just to hold those sides tight. What you'll need to do is you'll need to cut that vertical brace in half, so that you could put it at the straight panel to straight panel seam on both of your beds. And then instead of running the cross brace on the top and on the bottom, you run it in the center, and then take your wire, and you'll have to go and buy a little more wire and turnbuckles and some screw eyes, and you just run your X so that it kind of goes past that cross piece that you have in the center. It works. If you're really seriously thinking about doing this, feel free to contact me personally, and I would be more than happy to, we could have a Zoom or some kind of a video call, and I could show you exactly how to do it. It is very, very easy. But once again, so if you had $400 that you could afford to spare, you could have two 13-foot gardens, raised bed. Now, I don't know if you can see here. Let me see if I can bring this camera down just a little bit. See, this bed is at perfect height for when I sit in a chair to work on. This is Butter Crunch lettuce, by the way. I can sit here and I can weed. Easy. I can prune, I can plant, I can do all kinds of things. So, and it doesn't hurt my back. I have this little folding outdoor chair that's easy to move around. I can take care of all these things with very, very little issue. This also makes this handicap friendly. And that was something else I thought about. I wanted a garden that was going to last me for the rest of my life. Should I end up in a wheelchair, I could actually still work this garden. I might want to do something different with the paths to make it easier to get around. But these beds are pretty good. Here's what I was talking about a corner. It's a little bit off. I don't know if you can see it there. Once again, not a big deal. This is gray. They also have this in almond color, and this is supposed to be a galvanized product. So, there we have it, the raised beds. I hope that answers your questions and helps explain a little bit about what I do with my raised beds. Apologize for the jostling of the video. I'll work on the professionalism side of things as time goes on. But mostly I just wanted to share with you what was going on and what I do, and to answer those questions on where do you get those raised beds, how much do they cost, how are they, blah, 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 blah. So thank you for joining us at Papa's Farm, and I hope you have a great day.